football Friday, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 9 a.m. Friday, October 24th. Tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill. Watch live on YouTube each and every day. Pretty cool that First Take broadcasting from Legion Field right now, getting set for the Magic City Classic. Just the hype that surrounds this game, always fun, always cool. And, of course, a great conversation with Sham Shade, the new head coach at Alabama A&M, earlier this morning, who played in multiple massive games inside that stadium during his career. And going to be cool to see kind of how that one goes as well. Back into the games, though. Before we do that, Greg, tell our listeners about ProLift.
Well, ProLift doors have been serving the community now for a while. They do a great job. They also can help you out. If you take a peek at what's going on down in Baldwin County, they can help you out down there as well. Obviously, an area of the country that's growing tremendously. We're glad to have listener base there as well. So if you're here locally and you have issues with your garage door, highly recommend you going and checking out ProLift doors. I just hate paying for service calls. I want to pay for the work. Tell me what's wrong and tell me what it costs to fix it. That's what you'll do if you go with ProLift doors. So if you notice your garage door is slow, it's broken, I think you could probably figure that out. But if there's unusual noises, slow response time, vibration, shaking, call for that maintenance service today. Go online to proliftdoors.com. That's proliftdoors.com. Get the appropriate phone number for you. Whether you're here local or if you're in Baldwin County, go to proliftdoors.com. ProLift Garage Doors, lifting your expectations.
Texas Tech is a 36.5-point favorite against Oklahoma State, GMAC. 3 o'clock tomorrow on ESPNU. Texas Tech's been great. 6-1 this season. Oklahoma State's been miserable this year. But 36.5? Red Raiders cover that? Is that too much?
You tell me. You just talked a moment ago about North Carolina and feeling comfortable backing them at any point. Tell me about Oklahoma State and how comfortable you are backing them.
I'm not, but
Walk
I will
me
say
through
that
the thought process.
I will say with Sam Jackson now being at quarterback, he's a vet. He's been around, Auburn,
Yes.
Cal, played a lot of football. Does he get more comfortable as he continues to be the guy under center for that Oklahoma State football team? Rodney Fields can run the ball. Maybe they get kind of something going with those two. I will not even pretend like I think that there could be an upset there. But covering the 36.5 with some potential movement on offense with a dynamic playmaker at quarterback who you have to think is just going to grow a little bit more as he gets more snaps in live action there. I don't know. I think that's I don't have to think it is. It's a massive line. But I think with him at quarterback, the ability to make some plays, extend some plays, Oklahoma State, good chance to keep that thing within the number there. 36.5 is just too much, man. That's
a lot of points.
So, you with me, Oklahoma State, cover?
I'm never comfortable laying 35-plus points, ever. It's just not my thing. So I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. But if you told me gun to head which side you taking, I'd definitely take Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech in a bounce-back situation, probably pretty angry about how things went. They let a big opportunity get away from them for some wiggle room. I'm not super sold right now on what I've seen from anything that I've seen from Oklahoma State. I just don't love them. So, and I do love Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech is legit.
Well, let's make it clear. There's nothing to love about Oklahoma State this year. So it should be no surprise that you don't love them. I want to stay with some of these bigger lines, though. Wisconsin at Oregon. We like this Wisconsin front seven. They have been solid. Oregon at 6-1, a 31.5-point favorite at home. 6 o'clock FS1 from Autzen Stadium. Is that too many for the Ducks? I don't expect Wisconsin to do too much offensively in this game, but 31.5 in a conference game feels like a gigantic number. Does Oregon cover it?
I don't like Wisconsin anymore. I've been trying to get on board with them. I love Jeff Grimes. They just don't have anything offensively that scares me ever. And I think Oregon will play behind their line of scrimmage. They'll create negative plays. Obvious passing situations will be created as a result. If they could give me anything offensively, anything, I'd feel comfortable taking the points. But I haven't seen anything from them that makes me feel confident in them being able to do that. Like, what have you seen from Wisconsin at any point this year that makes you feel good about them being able to move the football? Very little. Very little.
Not too much. Not too much. It's specifically a quarterback. I'm not going to be able to give you much there. And you would think that the run game would get going with the stretch play and how Grimy sort of gets things started and wants to build it. That hasn't really been a vital part of what they've been able to do. So it's been a problem. It's been an issue offensively. They don't have the trigger man. The run game hadn't been there to build upon. So it's maybe 31.5. Ride Oregon there. See if they can pull that one off. The one thing I guess we're learning this weekend is this is massive spread Saturday tomorrow. So Miami a 28.5 point favorite against Stanford. I'm interested to see how Miami bounces back because Carson Beck goes out. He throws the 4 picks. He made some mistakes. Couple of those, I think, just trying to make a play. I don't look at them as offenses that I think he's going to continue to repeat on a weekly basis. But I didn't like his demeanor after the game. Didn't like some of the things he said after the game. So that's going to be another aspect of how you look at Miami moving forward. Is Carson Beck going to be able to keep everybody on the same page? Is that something that they just kind of put behind him? I don't know. I'm interested to see how last week affects this team because I think we know Miami is sort of a momentum team, a momentum program that they sort of always have been. With a little bit of that taken away, maybe a little bit of swagger gone, how do they bounce back this week? I mean, it's the perfect opponent to be able to do it against at home. So I don't think they struggle to win the game. Covering 28.5, I'll be interested to see where the offense is for that one.
Where are you at right now with a couple of teams that have shown some vulnerabilities in recent weeks? Oregon, Texas Tech, kind of those teams that looked like a juggernaut and all of a sudden got punched. Where are you at with them as far as the bounce back?
Yeah, this is where veterans are going to be a big part of it, guys who have been around college football. With Miami, you have a lot of guys that have been on that roster. 2, you have other guys, when you look at center, you look at quarterback, that have played a lot of college football. Now, are they the right guys to be able to manage that, handle that? We think we know their personalities, but we don't exactly know who they are and how they're going to handle those things. That's one thing I think I'm interested to watch this week with a couple of those teams. I think Miami will be all right because I think Mario can sell to them how some of the mistakes they made can be corrected. And I think that you have probably enough guys that are going to look at the quarterback and say, we're still going to be able to go out there and do our thing, and it's not going to affect them moving forward. By the way, Miller Moss, pretty good football player. Isaac Brown, pretty good football player. And Jeff Braun's pretty good coach. So, I mean, Louisville's still 5-1, right?
Louisville's good.
It's not like you lost to a 2-3 football team. So
no doubt. But I'm just curious your thoughts. Like, are you feeling differently about the Miamis, Oregons, Texas Techs than you did a couple weeks ago, or was it it's just a bad game? Like, has it altered your evaluation, or do you chalk it up to, all right, tough out? Like, hey, guess what? To be at your best 12 times is hard. Like, what are you chalking it up to? Vulnerabilities or a bad outcome?
Not only hard, but harder than ever and different than ever. So I don't know if I look at these teams in a completely different way. But what I'll say is this. I am a little bit concerned about Miami's rushing attack, which I thought was great. And then I kind of went back and I watched a little bit more of that Notre Dame game. And I went back and kind of just scanned some of their run game from earlier in the year. Went back and watched some of the Florida game. And what I sort of complimented them with earlier in the year, Greg, of being able to grind out yards like Mark Fletcher getting to the line of scrimmage and then all of a sudden popping out and getting 8 more. I'm starting to wonder, was that maybe a little bit more happenstance than what is going to be a regular occurrence? Like, are they just opening things up? Or do they have a back that has a good feel for it, that just doesn't give up on plays, and he's been able to kind of score it out and find extra yards? That's what I want to see be different for Miami. I think it was the receivers that we questioned going into the season. I think that group has excelled and exceeded our expectations. I do think the offensive line is still good, but as far as how teams are playing them, things are able to do to them to be able to slow down the rushing attack. Louisville's D-line is not bad, but they complicated some things in that run game last week for Miami that I just don't think that they should have been able to the extent that they did. And then looking back on a couple of the other games now, I'm thinking, was my judgment clouded a little bit about exactly what the Miami rushing attack was? So I have changed my opinion about that part of that team, yes. With Oregon, I thought I had Ohio State and Miami on their own platform for a while. I thought Alabama was knocking on that door. I still kind of thought Oregon was a little bit of a step behind for a couple of reasons. I just didn't think that I didn't think they had the blunt force trauma that they could operate with. I didn't think the continuity up front on the offensive line was where some of those others were. Super skilled, a lot of speed, but
no doubt.
Could they manage that fist fight with some other teams that could get them into that? That's what I was wondering about. And so I'm in a very similar spot with Oregon. Young quarterback, you anticipate there's going to be some ups and downs, some ebbs and flows. So haven't really changed my opinion too much on the Ducks, but Miami I probably have more concerns about because that's not a part of their team that I thought was going to get stymied, and it pretty much did last week.
Very much so. I mean, and that I think is something that you probably need to be a little bit mindful of is against really athletic fronts. Because I think they're very, very good. I think if they lock on, it's a wrap. They're big and powerful. And what beats size and power? Speed and athleticism. I think the athleticism last week that we saw from Louisville posed a different challenge. So Miami now, I think looking at them, I still really like them, by the way, but it's styles of fights. We've talked about this now a million times. Against disruptive, athletic, move-based defenses that can move and force you to hit a moving target, I think you're going to have some problems if you're Miami going forward, unless you just want to lock them and block them and just go duo all day long and you just create double teams across the front and not worry about it and just hope you don't have linebackers that gap penetrate. But I like the linebackers at Louisville. I think there's a good group kind of across the board. So how do you feel about them adjusting who they are to find a way to maybe better account for the speed and athleticism that you might see in other spots?
I think you just get back to what you do, who you are, and you just lean on where your strengths are. I don't think that just speed and athleticism is going to be a problem for them. I mean, I think you got a quarterback trying to do too much, and because we talked about those throws, they weren't necessarily egregious, I didn't think. I also look at the fact that, if you become one-dimensional on any side of the football and there's one thing you can't stop defensively or one thing you can only do well or semi-well offensively, you're going to get got. So I just think it's going to go back to not being high risk, not taking unnecessary chances, and living where you know you can be best. And I'll go back to the physicality portion of Miami. It's a part that I thought was better than everybody else on their schedule, and it didn't appear that way last weekend. If that continues to be the story, there could be not only problems in the playoffs, but there could be another problem or two on their schedule. We mentioned NC State, not a great football team this year, but that's going to be a part that they're going to have to manage, deal with. I think Syracuse can at least match that to an extent. I don't really know what Virginia Tech's going to look like with 2 regular season games left, so I wouldn't be overly concerned about that. But at Pitt might be one that's a little bit nerve-wracking. But the bounce-back portion of it I want to see because I think that shows a lot about the maturity, a lot about mentally, emotionally where the team is. And we'll get that from some of these teams this week. That'll be one that we're watching. One game that I didn't bring up that I wanted to mention to you was Baylor at Cincy. ESPN2, 3 o'clock. We know what Robertson's been for Baylor this year. Absolutely outstanding. But this Cincinnati team continues to grow on me, G-Mac. And
I like them.
I mean, there's a lot to like about them. How the offense operates, how they build the run game, how everything's married together, disruptive on the defensive line. There don't feel like there's too many aspects of what Cincinnati does that give you a lot of letdowns. And, they've played in a couple of close games. Iowa State, Kansas, they've shown that they can manage those. Weren't able to come back against Nebraska and get a win, but is this a team that's just going to continue? And they've got some prove-it games on the schedule now. This Baylor team's going to be good. They're at Utah. They've got BYU later. They're at TCU to close the season. What's the ceiling right now in your mind for Cincinnati?
Big 12 championship game. I don't love their matchup against Texas Tech, if you want me to be honest. So, Big 12 championship game, I think they can get there. I just don't know if they can win it. Is that fair, or am I not giving them enough credit?
I think they can. I think it's possible. I mean, you've got Texas Tech has been juggling quarterbacks. You don't know what that situation is going to look like at the end of the season. You got a playmaker pulling the trigger for Cincinnati, a guy that can take over the game. I'm not going to put it past them. I'm wondering if they get past this game this weekend, if they get past Baylor, and they're sitting there at 7-1 with a game at Utah, Arizona, BYU, and TCU left. I'm not putting playoffs out of the possibility for Cincinnati because I think they do. I do
Really?
think they can get to that. I do think they can get to that game and win it.
You think
I'm not
they
saying
can,
there-
you really
I'm not
think
saying
they
there's
can
a
beat
shoe-in.
Texas Tech?
I do.
Now, the D tackle, Gil Howard, being out is massive. Like, him being down, and is it season ending? I know he's out. Skylar Gil Howard. Dude, he's awesome, too. I mean, he's a really, really disruptive defensive tackle. One of the better defensive tackles I've watched this year. He's one of those little sawed-off, twitchy, rest of the
He
season.
had
Dang it.
surgery on his ankle, but
Yeah, that's a bummer. I didn't know if it was like tightrope and he could return down the stretch, but that's a bummer. If he's out for the rest of the year, that's enormous because he is the injury has not been determined to be season ending at this time. That was as of October 17th, so a week ago. Could return for the postseason, so maybe that includes the Big 12 championship game, perhaps. So we'll take a peek at that. Him being down is enormous. He's one of the more disruptive defensive tackles you'll find. But I don't know, man. Like, I just don't love the matchup. A team that wants to run the rock, a team that wants to pound it. I don't feel very confident in any team in the Big 12 being able to pound it against that front, even if their defensive tackle is out. They're really good and they're deep and they're stout. So if you're going to pound it, it better be by way of misdirection. I don't know if Cincinnati, by the way, I don't think Cincinnati's defense is as good as Arizona State's. So I think Texas Tech would score. I just don't love the matchup there. But I do think Cincy can get there. Like, Cincy getting to the Big 12 title game would not surprise me at all.
all right, we'll get to a break. Come back with more Mac and Cube next. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Listen online, jocksfm.com. Apps in your app store, iPhone, Android. Tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill. And don't forget about Gusty Goulis and the Gusty Goulis Group. If you're looking for a new home in central Alabama, Gusty Goulis Group has got you covered. They've served more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. And since 2012, the Gusty Goulis Group has been recognized both nationally and locally as greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold. You can trust Gusty's aggressive improving selling system, brokered by eXp Realty. Just Google Gusty Goulis Group, and you're going to see over 850 five-star Google reviews. Gusty invests thousands in the latest tools like social media, photographers, and more to help get your home sold or get you into a new home. Call 205-542-1996 today. That's 205-542-1996 and start packing. All right, let's go back to a couple of the SEC games, local games, before I have to get out and head to Kentucky meetings. Auburn, Arkansas, Greg. When we look at finally what this game is going to be, what it's going to come down to, potential weather in this game, the Arkansas offense feels like it's been generating momentum the last couple of weeks. Not a lot of wins to go with that. 2-5, 0-3 in the SEC. Auburn 3-4, 0-4 in the SEC. What's the difference here? What decides this game in your opinion, and which way are you going?
Man, I don't know about you. I am struggling so much in this game. Because I've gone back and forth. Like in a game that involves weather, in a game that involves challenges from a situational standpoint, I like defense. Always. My other concern, though, and I don't know how you see it here, I don't think Auburn's defense has been tested yet. And you're going to say, what are you talking about? They've played against legit offenses. I agree with that. I think Missouri's a good offense. I think Georgia is a good offense. I think Oklahoma, when they played them, was a pretty good offense. Here's my problem, is that I think every single team that plays against Auburn right now knows, guys, let's just be conservative offensively. Because I look at what Georgia was running last week, for example, against Ole Miss, in a game that they knew they had to score. And what I saw philosophically against Ole Miss from Georgia was very different from what I saw philosophically from Georgia against Auburn. Do you agree with that?
To an extent, yes. I mean, game situations have dictated opponents to not have to be hyper aggressive. That's just a reality of it.
And that, I think, is what concerns me. Because you know what Bobby Petrino doesn't care about? Being conservative offensively. being conservative offensively. He wants to score, and he does not care. He will run the risk of turning it over. He will run the risk of giving Auburn short fields, because ultimately he knows that he trusts his offense more than he trusts any other aspect of his team. So he wants it to be a shootout. He wants it to be a track meet. And I think in the game, if it does, I know there's weather, and I get that favors the defense and all that other stuff. I don't think Auburn's defense has seen a group that will take the reins off and doesn't care. Which is why I think their worst defensive performance is potentially coming tomorrow. And I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up. If it becomes a game that's played in the 30s, how confident are you in Auburn scoring 30 right now?
No, they're not going to. They're not keeping up with that from that standpoint. Because I think if you look at where Auburn has advantages, I struggle with this. I don't know if Auburn's going to be able to just line up and run the football. I think they want to. I do believe that they will try to. And this Arkansas, as Trey Biddy told us, this Arkansas front earlier this week, without Cam Ball, that's not good. But I do know what Arkansas has is fast, active linebackers and hybrid players, like nickel safeties. So explosive running plays, I'm not 100% certain of. Can Auburn move the chains a little bit? Maybe. And that might be enough in this game because you want to keep that Arkansas offense off the field. But I also feel like being able to connect with some balls down the field was something Auburn was going to have a chance to be able to do. But with the weather, maybe that's neutralized just a little bit. I think it's going to come down to just how many stops the Auburn defense can get. And is this the one where they break to an extent where they're just gassed and the numbers are catching up with them and Taylor Green's running wild? Taylor Green's also given the ball back a couple of times this year. And if Auburn can get, I'm going to say 2 takeaways, I think they win the game. I think they got to get 2. If they get 2, I think they'll get it. But I'm with you. I go back and forth on it because I think Bobby Petrino, the stuff that Durkin's been doing to sort of dictate protections from different teams, I think Petrino will have an answer for that. I think quick game will be an answer for it. I don't think Bo Perbula had quick game options. I don't think a couple of these teams that Auburn has faced, when you look at just sort of how teams have adapted to what he's been showing, at least pre-snap, have had enough options to get out of it. I don't think Marcel Reed leaned on it. Georgia had some, but they didn't really go to it as much as you would think. So I think Arkansas will have those options and will get the ball out quickly and force Auburn to play a little bit wider, force Auburn to play up a little bit. Maybe that gives them some shot plays. As far as the pick goes, man, I just think it's a bad spot for Auburn on the road. I think Petrino's trying to prove something. I don't think Auburn gets the win. I think Arkansas gets it. I can see a way for Auburn to get it. And it's that defense getting a couple of stops, getting a couple of takeaways, and being probably a little bit, I'll just say greedy with the run, just sticking with it, being stingy with the run. And if that goes a little bit, then I think that would go a long way for Auburn being able to get this win. I just don't know where they are mentally and emotionally right now after that game last week. That's a tough one to drop. And now you're on, 3 or 4 in a row that have just been heartbreakers, been gut punches. They've shown resilience to this point, Greg, but I think Arkansas will have something for them this weekend.
Yeah, I just think it's a tough matchup. I think it's a really tough matchup, and it's not even so much. And I looked last year at the game and how it went and turnovers, and I just don't think last year is a good example because I don't think last year Arkansas's offense was anywhere near where they're at right now. And while I think they might have had better personnel last year on the outside at wide receiver, I think Taylor Green is just too dynamic. Now, sloppy conditions, he's a little bit sloppy with his ball handling from time to time. I think Auburn needs 2 turnovers in this game. And they got to force 2 turnovers. If they force 2 turnovers, I like their chances. But if they, for whatever reason, Arkansas that is, keep a clean sheet and don't turn the ball over at all, it's going to be tough sledding. I like you said, I think there's a lot more in the tank for Arkansas's offense. And I think Arkansas's offense, we've seen them play against good defenses, by the way, and it hasn't stopped them. A&M, we're on the same page, right? A&M's good defense, right?
Very good.
I like Auburn better, but that's a good defense. From a personnel standpoint, that's a good defense. I think Auburn plays a little better together. I think Auburn plays a little bit more sound. But at the same time, there are going to be eye violations created here. And there are going to be gashes in the run game. There's going to be. It has to be. And I think we went into it at times, and I'm not saying we have given Auburn too much credit defensively, but I do think we've probably given them a little more than they might deserve, because when they played against, say, Oklahoma, for example, Oklahoma looked like a juggernaut at that point, but Oklahoma's offensive line had yet to really be exposed. I think they played pretty well defensively against A&M, but A&M could look at how that game was going and saying, they're not going to move the ball. We're not trying anything. Like, they can't move it. They're living in second and long. They're living in long yardage situations. Like, we're not doing anything offensively to try to put them in challenging. So I don't know, man. I think it's really tough sledding. I think it's good to win this game is going to require Auburn's best performance of the year. And they can have it. They can do it. But it will require their absolute best. And I'm not confident with what I've seen the last few weeks that we're going to get that.
No, I would agree with you there. I'll take Arkansas. I'll take Alabama to beat South Carolina. I think defensively South Carolina can complicate some things, but I don't think for 4 quarters that offense is going to be able to get too much going against Alabama's defense. You're on the same page there?
Yeah, I just think the one thing you got to be mindful of if you're Alabama defending this team is becoming a little overly aggressive with the pass rush because of the vulnerabilities along the offensive line. If Lenore Sellers gets in the open field, you got problems. There have been missed tackles. There have been challenges in fitting the run. I do think South Carolina will try to run the football. I do think South Carolina will maybe have some success running the football. Alabama's misfit 3 or 4 plays a game in the run game, and when they break through that first initial surge, they haven't done a great job getting ball carriers on the ground. So I think there will be a couple runs created by South Carolina in this game, but they're too one-dimensional, I think, to really threaten Alabama. Like, are you at all concerned about Alabama matching up one-on-one outside at corner against these wide receivers?
I mean, I'm concerned with anybody trying to match up with Nick Harbor down the field, but that doesn't mean he's going to catch the football. So, like, am I afraid of South Carolina actually completing some of those passes? No, not really. But I do think that physically there are a couple of guys that can be problematic. And the other part of that is the quarterback doesn't have time to get the ball off. And I do think that South Carolina is going to give up pressure. And whether it's James Smith, Yonze Pierre, Lenore Sellers isn't going to have time to find those matchups, even if they did go South Carolina's way, regardless. So I think we're pretty much on the same page there. I got to run to Kentucky meetings, get set. GMAC take you home the rest of the way through with the other guys right after this on Jocks.
All right, gotta have it situations. Absolute gotta have it. Back against the wall. No turning back. We're going to go through a few of those here in just a moment. There's a handful of teams this week that absolutely gotta have it. And frankly, with where we're at in college football right now, I feel like desperation mode is extremely powerful. More powerful now than maybe ever before. I'll tell you why here in just a moment. Before I do, I'm going to tell you about my friends at Bromberg's. We know that a natural diamond is one of a kind, a luxury unlike any other. And the gift of a natural diamond is something that will stand the test of time and hopefully be in your family for multiple generations. The beauty of that diamond, the brilliance, the strength, the value, the timeless gemstones that are with us all the way through the rest of our lives are just so important. So you wouldn't want to mess around with it. You want to go and get it from a trusted retailer like Bromberg's. They've been around for 190 years. They have the latest natural diamond jewelry in both the Mountain Brook Village store and at the Summit. So highly recommend you going and checking them out today. The sales staff's off the charts. The experience that you'll have purchasing that diamond, the knowledge that they have when you walk in the door to help you out. Because I don't know anything about diamonds. I know nothing. But the wonderful people at Bromberg's do, which is why I'm always appreciative of the experience I have when I go and purchase something that I know is an expensive purchase, but I trust that I'm getting the best possible deal and I'm getting the best possible quality when I shop at Bromberg. So go and check them out in Mountain Brook Village and at the Summit. You'd also take a peek online at brombergs.com. All right, desperation mode. Back against the wall. Gotta have it. Those are probably the most powerful things that you can have right now in college football. And there have been a million examples, by the way, over the course of time of teams punching up when you think that all is dead and buried and gone. Season's over. Gotta have it, or else every goal that you had coming into the season is now sideways, is now over. So let's go through a few of these. Desperation mode situation number one. Damian Saber, is it possible to go in a different direction than LSU? Most desperate team of the weekend. They're sitting there 5-2, 2-2 in the SEC. Poured a ton of money into this roster. Brian Kelly in a situation where he's kind of got to have it because 5-3 with this roster, with challenging games still lying ahead. They still have to go and play against Oklahoma. Still have to go to Tuscaloosa. I mean, we're looking, if they don't get a win this weekend against LSU or against Texas A&M, LSU could very reasonably be a 7-5 football team, which is mind-blowing given what they have coming back. So desperation mode. Are we all on the same page? Is LSU in desperation mode number one this weekend?
Absolutely, 100%. And to your point, Greg, I mean, you've seen LSU. Why hasn't this year gone the way that it kind of was predicted to go this season?
Because it starts and ends up front. It starts on the offensive line. I mean, you cannot win games at any point in college football history. You've never been able to win a lot of football games without a good offensive line. And they don't have one right now. You also have a quarterback that hasn't played up to his potential this year for whatever reason. I don't know why. He's been banged up. I know that. I know he's hurt. I know he's less than 100%, but very few people are at 100% in October. End of October. You're banged up. Everybody's hurting. You desperately need a bye week. They get one next week. This is enormous. If they can somehow figure out a way to win this game, everything still sits right in front of them. And I think A&M is still a little gettable. I love A&M this year. I really do. I don't think they're flawless. I don't think anybody is right now outside of what I've seen from Indiana and Ohio State. So I don't think that A&M is without flaw. I just think that this week is a very tricky one. Knowing how much LSU needs this one. So they are in desperation mode number one. I'm going to add another team to desperation mode. Gotta have it. No choices. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Iowa State has to have this one.
Yeah.
Iowa State welcomes BYU to town. It's 2:30 on Fox tomorrow afternoon. So if you're going double screens, you got Bama, South Carolina on one. You got BYU, Iowa State on the other. Iowa State's 5-2. They're 2-2 in the Big 12. They've lost 2 in a row. They're coming off a bye. BYU's undefeated. It's not that dissimilar, by the way, to the exact situation we just talked about with LSU. Veteran quarterback, tons of pieces back, made it to the Big 12 title game a year ago. Matt Campbell could be in line to maybe move on after this season for the first time ever. I mean, it's like he's never really listened to overtures. He's just been content with being at Iowa State. But now there's some big-time jobs coming open, and everybody wants Matt Campbell's process. Everybody wants Matt Campbell's system, understandably. If they win this game, they are right back in the mix for the Big 12 title game. Right back in it. In a league that 10-2 will probably get you in the title game. 7-2 in the league will probably get you in the title game. A win this week with a head-to-head now against a BYU team that's undefeated. They got to have it. So I think they can get it. They're actually favored. I'm taking Iowa State this weekend. Like BYU is the engine that continues to deliver. Like every week they're an underdog. Every week they pull it out. But it hasn't always been pretty. Last week it was in some ways. But the week before it was not. I think on the road this week is going to be asking a little too much against a desperate Iowa State football team coming off a bye. So I put Iowa State in that category as well. Where are we leaning there?
I'm leaning BYU. I think the matchup with Utah kind of put them in it's almost a BYU of old. They'll physically kind of dominate a little bit. And I think Iowa State, they've been battle tested, but I don't know if it's enough to kind of quantify into a win over BYU. I think BYU's starting to roll a little bit.
Bear?
I don't know. I do think they're desperate, but I do think if they drop this one, they can still, because they have, I think they have Arizona State next week, and still have winnable games with TCU, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. So they're not insanely desperate. I have them on the list. I don't know if I have them at number 2, but I do think they get the game, though.
Feels that way. Undefeated team on the road against a team that's 5-2. One's ranked in the top 12, top 11, and they're an underdog on the road. Like, something's fishy if you're looking at it in that scenario. Let's go next to Texas. Texas 5-2, 2-1 in the SEC. Texas still in control of their own destiny. As much as we have written them off, as much as we have found their performance to be a little problematic, a little concerning, all fair, all reasonable. It's not like we're speaking out of turn. Like Texas has looked extremely vulnerable at times this year, especially with their offensive line. The inconsistencies that they've had on offense really across the board at wide receiver, quarterback, run game, O-line, protection, tight end. Like they've had a lot of ups and downs. And now they're going on the road to play at Mississippi State, a team that's coming off a bye and that actually has shown great progress this year. This to me is a real dicey game. Very dicey football game for Texas. Mississippi State is not coming off the road. They lost at Florida last week. They were off the bye the week before. So not off the bye, but first game at home since September. So in nearly a month, they have not been at home. They've been to A&M, they've been to Florida, they had their bye, and now they come back to Starkville and welcome in a ranked Texas Longhorns football team. And Jeff Lebby has this team playing good football, and Texas is desperate. I think it's a really tough spot for the Longhorns. Really tough. Because they have to go and they will be licking their chops in the event in which they don't get this one. They have to come back and play Vandy next week at home, which is brutal. So I think this is absolutely got to have it situation for Texas. They lose, playoffs are done with a road trip to Georgia. Still have A&M, still have Vandy on the schedule. Still have Arkansas, who's dangerous. So, got to have it situation for Texas. You guys think they get it?
Yeah, I think they get it. I just think it may be a little too close for comfort. I think Mississippi State, the one thing that they have is true belief that they can compete week in and week out. And really and truly, if a couple things go their way, I mean, they got an offense that can light it up. I mean, Blake Shapen, the biggest thing for Blake Shapen is keeping him upright. There's been a couple games where it's not just, occasional push down sack. Like, he's gotten tattooed a few times. And I don't know if you don't want to do that against this Texas defensive front. But I think Texas, not necessarily a get-right game, but it's going to be one of those hard-fought, like, you can tell there's a sense of desperation of them trying to get a dub.
Bear, where you at?
I do think that they're desperate. I do think they can lose this game. This game, I think, is going to feel a lot like the Kentucky game because Texas's offense hasn't really looked all that great lately, and I think State's got a better defense. So I think Texas showed last week is like, okay, like we can grind out a win, and I think their momentum stops next week because I think Texas loses to Vanderbilt. I think they find a way to squeak out this one. But, yeah, Texas has to have this one. They have to have every single one. They can't afford to lose again.
No, I mean, I think to reach – I don't see how they run the table. Not with how they've played up to this point. Just how many are they going to lose at this point? I mean, you tell me right now Texas loses 1.5 more games, I'd take the over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you told me Texas loses 2.5 more games, I might take the over. As crazy as that may sound, and given how much we all liked this team coming into the season, and for good reason, by the way. Like, they had a lot of good pieces back on defense. They had a really talented quarterback. He hasn't played up to his potential, but Arch is very talented, but he can't do it himself. I don't know. I think it's tough sledding for Texas from this point forward. I do not like the way things are finishing for them, and I don't love how they're playing offensively right now. So fingers crossed they can get back on track, but I'm not sure it's going to happen. I'm going to say Mississippi State football team that is desperate also on the other side to prove that they've made major progress. They've already been a giant killer. They knocked off Arizona State earlier in the year at home. We know how hard Starkville is to play. I think Texas is going to have their hands full tomorrow, that's for sure. All right, when we come back, we got to put a bow on the show. Give you a couple more brief thoughts about Bama, South Carolina, because I do think there is a desperate team in that game, and it ain't the Tide. We'll explain next on MAXXX. McElroy, Cubelic in the morning, final segment of the week before we kick it over to three-man front. Know those guys will have everything ready to rock and roll, get you prepared for week 9 of the college football season. But before we move along to them, let me tell you quickly about Crocker Moving Services. Are a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys. You can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up and move, your company headquarters moved across the country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you purchase need to get to your home. So call visit them online today for a free quote. The website's crockermovingservices.com. That's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move. All right, Barry, where are we going?
Well, it's that time of week. We are going to do our TD's Find Furniture Super Sofa Game of the Weekend. You can find your Super Sofa or furniture for the entire home at TD's Find Furniture. The store is the size of 2 football fields, so there's plenty to choose from at TD's Find Furniture in Summerton. And for me, of all the games out there, the one I'd want to watch, I want to know which one of these teams is going to the playoff because I want to know who's going to win. Give me Missouri, Vanderbilt, 2:30 ESPN. I'm pretty sure Vanderbilt gets the game. I wouldn't be surprised if Missouri squeaks out the win, but I think whoever wins is definitely going to the playoffs. So that's the one I want to watch. Give me Missouri, Vandy, 2:30 ESPN as my Super Sofa Game of the Weekend.
All right, Damian, where are you going?
I'll spare you, Greg, because I do think that you have an interesting matchup there at 11 o'clock, but I know that's the one you're gonna pick. I'm going to
Not necessarily.
I'm going the nightcap. Is Texas A&M for real as they take the trip to Death Valley, take on LSU at 6:30 on ABC? They say it's a night game in Death Valley, so I hope Texas A&M got the chin strap buckled. I'm going Texas A&M at LSU on ABC at 6:30 as my TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa Game of the weekend.
Attaboy, I'm going local. The Magic City Classic, Legion Field, Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama. 2:30 on ESPN+. It's Alabama State against Alabama A&M. Both teams 4 wins on the season. Alabama A&M needing a win to get back to 500 in the SWAC. The Magic City Classic, great historically significant game in our backyard. So I'm going to go Magic City Classic as my TD's Fine Furniture Super Sofa Game of the weekend. By the way, looking like good weather this weekend, boys, right?
Should be nice,
It's going to be nice. It's going to be pretty. It's going to be a beautiful day over there in Legion Field. So looking forward to that. And I guess a bonus, yes, if you want to watch me at 11 o'clock alongside Sean McDonough and Molly McGrath, Ole Miss and Oklahoma are going to be a good game there.
You're the lead-in
kind of a playoff game.
Yeah, your game is the lead-in for the game you want to watch.
Yeah, no, it's a great one. I mean, we got a lot of good games this weekend. A lot of good football to be watched. So hopefully that beautiful weather doesn't distract too many people. Make them go outside and do fun stuff. Just sit inside, dark room with 3 TVs. That to me seems like the best way to do it. TV's Fine Furniture Super Sofa Games of the weekend. So a couple final thoughts. I'm just telling you, I think things for Alabama this weekend should go pretty well. I think they match up pretty well. I don't think right now South Carolina's offense is dynamic enough to cause a lot of concerns. I think they're a little one-dimensional. I think the big deal in this game is corralling and containing Lenore Sellers. If he gets out, that becomes a huge issue. So contain and corral the quarterback. Don't get aggressive. Corral him and just force South Carolina to snap the ball offensively. Don't give up big plays. Stay on top. Bend, don't break, and corral the quarterback. You're good there. And then for Ty Simpson and co., be smart with how quickly you're getting rid of the football. Dylan Stewart's a handful. Get the ball out. And when it comes to the run game, there will be opportunities in the run game. Dylan Stewart's very vertical. He's very upfield. You can keep him honest if you run right at him, I think. He's pretty good against the run for an elite edge rusher. But I think you can run right at him, especially on some draws. Watch him invite upfield, hand the draw, and you hit the B-gap play side. Going to be really, really fun. Going to be a great game. Look forward to it. I think Bama handles their business. I think it's going to be a great weekend. We'll be back Monday, 7 to 10. 3-man front. They're next.